Okay, just to let you know, you are most likely alive today because of a Russian by the name of Vasily Arkhipov, who was the chief of staff for a Russian submarine flotilla. He was on a Foxtrot class submarine, the B-59, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and this submarine was carrying a nuclear torpedo. Now, the situation they found themselves in is that the American destroyer, the Beale, was on top of them and dropping practice depth charges on them to try and force them to the surface. For some reason, they had communicated to Moscow that they were going to do this, but Moscow could not communicate to the submarine. So, as far as the submarine was concerned, these were real depth charges just farther away. It's hard to tell if it's a practice one far away, practice one close, or a real one far away. So he kept dropping these things, and the submarine commander and the political officers decided they really need to fire their nuclear torpedo because, as far as they're concerned, they felt there was a state of war with the United States, and just Moscow hadn't been able to communicate to them, and they were following their orders. So, if they had fired this torpedo, it would have been at the carrier that this destroyer was escorting, the Randolph, and that would have blown the task force pretty well right out of the water and started World War III. With, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dead. And I know myself, I was close to 3 targets. I would have, ceased to exist pretty quick. And pretty well, a lot of you out here would have not been born because your parents would have ceased to exist. So, what happened? Why, normally these two guys, the captain and the political officer, can authorize the firing of the torpedo. They each had half of the key. But in this case, since the chief of staff of the flotilla was on board, he could countermand it. All three had to agree, and he refused to fire it. He felt that, it wasn't clear that these were real depth charges and not just practice depth charges. It wasn't clear if they were all-out war. Maybe it was just some U.S. destroyer captain going rogue, came up with all sorts of arguments why they should not fire this, and refused to authorize the firing. So the torpedo was not fired. The submarine had to come to the surface because it was a diesel-electric Foxtrot class and had been underwater too long and needed to come up for air. Air temperature and CO carbon dioxide levels were just right into the sky, and there was no way they could stay down there much longer. And when it came down there, an American airplane buzzed them and fired warning shots at them. So that was another opportunity for these guys to say, maybe you're right, but maybe this is a war and you just missed. Let's fire this torpedo now while we are still alive and get the Americans before they get us. So there was a lot of chances for this to happen, but he was adamant that we should not fire this torpedo. So they finally were in communication. Moscow found that there was no war. If he had been on one of the other submarines, because there was 4 of them, and the captain and the political officer were alone, they would have fired the torpedo and triggered World War III, and all nuclear holocaust would have been in process. And most of us listening to this, and myself, of course, would have been dead or not even born. So, thank God for this man. So, this is actually one of many instances where we had close calls, and I'll talk about those close calls in future videos. So please subscribe, like, and do comment below. Bye for now.